war economy and sort of, to put it on the very harsh terms. But do you think that your business, if you want to continue growing in the same pattern or, ratios and that, prior to pandemic, so what you need to do? So you need to start thinking strategically how to move forward to that. So those are goals that there's only the business owner, the ones that can put in there. So now you got to set up scenarios. What's the model you're going to use? So that now in the past, probably you were following trends. Now there's no trends to follow, right? So that's
it's the trends have moved a little bit, and they're a little bit, I'd say, not as predictable as they were before. And the interesting thing is going to be over the next year or two is to see, do we go back to the trends or are things totally different? And and that's really going to be, I think, is going to be industry specific. Some are going to go right back to the way they were. I'm seeing it right now. The restaurants and bar industry, now that they're open back up, I got a couple friends that own bars, and they said they're busier than they've ever been, and they're having issues getting staff. Our staff's making money hand over fist, but they hear this other bar down the street, they're getting tipped higher, and they're just jumping and going all over the place, and that's an issue. And these are the things that we've got to look at, because something I want to cover in our next segment is risk. Because you start looking at these trends, you look at opportunities, you look at threats, but we can't avoid them all. No.
You cannot avoid them, and that perhaps is the most important portion of what risks are. You need to see and understand what the risks are coming and how you prepare for those ahead.
Right.
Because if you don't have the vision of what's going to be the potential downturns, you're not going to be prepared when they come in front of you.
Right. And it's something, we were talking with Lee Winkleman on another episode, and, as a lawyer, his job is to prevent risk, and his job is to prevent and minimize legal risk. Your job, CFO, is to minimize and prevent, financial risk. And this is where, as I'll use our fishing boat analogy is, we need the captain, we need the crew, we need the mate, we need the angler. Everybody's got their job. And, as a business owner, it's hard to hire a chief financial officer because it'd be expensive, but that's where we're bringing in somebody like you that's fractional. You're in as needed and kind of helps it. So how does being fractional, help that business owner that's growing?
Well, it's B2B CFO have actually a very large and experience, not only on the business side, economical accounting, but on the business as in general, which actually help us, only to understand the pains that the business owner is going through. So, and translate that into the language of numbers, which is basically looking at, how it's affecting the financial statements, how to mitigate those risks, and how to make those, corrections if they're needed, or obviously to assume what needs to be done in the future.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, we're going to get ready to go to break here. So, check out Felipe, B2B CFO. Make sure you guys go out and check us out. If you haven't recently, go out and check us out on
Central Houston, transform your home and business. Our proven process gives you more time to enjoy moments that matter in the spaces you love. Alfredo, Mallory, and John are experienced professionals who will work with you every step of the way to ensure a flawless finish. Call us today at 713-824-5166 and let CertaPro of Central Houston handle with ease, efficiency, and high professionalism your next residential and commercial painting project, because the world needs color.
Hey, this is your business guide, Michael Rager. We're back with Teach Your Business to Fish. We got Mr. Felipe Suarez and Mr. Jonathan over there. Give me the 3-second warning. I think he loves that because he just wants to see what's going to happen when he turns the camera back on and what kind of stupid things we're saying behind the scenes. I know he did it. Man, it was a couple episodes ago, and we had a guy, Hurt Porter, on, and we were talking Bitcoin, but Andy, who's not here, our first mate, and we started laughing so hard, and he turned the camera on, and none of us could talk for about 30 seconds. So that's good. That's a very interesting episode. If you haven't seen it, I think you should go check that one out. All right, Felipe. So we're talking about businesses and growing and doing these things. What's the difference between a fractional, somebody fractional like you coming in versus somebody that actually hires a CFO, and why should businesses look at one versus the other?
Well, obviously, a fractional or a CFO, to understand, it's going to be somebody with more than 25 years of experience and different aspect of the business, and that is going to be cost. It's gonna cost somebody because you're gonna put it on the payroll. It's gonna be expensive.
Because your 35, 40 years of experience isn't cheap.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be, well, it's gonna be hefty on your on the check, right? So but say when you hire somebody or have the opportunity to have an advisor, a strategic advisor, that help you and navigate with you all situations, but very laser focus on those things that have been identified through an interview, what we call the discovery analysis. And then you minimize that cost to a minimum expression.
Right.
But more important point is you identify what you are really needing. So you need something to be addressed, and that's going to be basically the value that you're going to get from that is it will be very well rewarded.
Yeah. So it's really based on need.
Yeah.
And somebody with your experience, you can come in and identify, here, these are the key things you together. You're going to be able to put the reports together. Or do you train them on how to do it? Do you do it, or is it a combination, or how does that work sometimes?
Yeah, well, a company that currently, what I can and normally do is go and learn about their business and interview the people and see what can be improved,
right,
what needs to be speed up, and make the recommendation and actually follow up on those recommendations that needs to be addressed.
Right. So you're coming in. Sometimes you're coming in as a consultant and helping them do stuff. No. Sometimes you're coming in as a coach and telling them what to do, or guiding them around the right path and making that happen. So what made you decide that I'm going to go leave corporate America and come into this, business ownership?
Well, in reality, I started feeling that there's another step on my life that I needed to step on, which is basically to give back.
Right.
So it's just, the way that I give back, it's, put it in, to the disposal of people and businesses, my knowledge. And then, and obviously it's rewarding. I got, the reward of seeing somebody that started a business from scratch and going through difficult times and help them to get back on the rail. So that's just totally rewarding. It's a combination of how do I accomplish, but besides that, it's also a very rewarding because I got a new friend. So and then we build up a relationship. But that's what it's all about.
So since you've done business both domestically and internationally, how does it differ? How do things differ in the United States compared to Central and South America when it comes to running a business?
Well,
I'm going to ask you. I'm going to preface this. The reason I ask, if you notice, it says Geraldo Media Group, and there's a lot of people south of the border that are watching us that actually want to come to the U.S. and do business. So, I'm hoping you can give a little perspective on some of the differences.
Well, yes. I mean, it's all across the board. I have clients in Kentucky and in Alabama. So, I mean, doing business in Texas, totally different. So, I mean, but when you start crossing the Rio Grande, it's actually gets more difficult to, because you got to adapt to the cultures.
Right.
So, I have been blessed to being exposed to different part of the world, and then and adapting to those different cultures help you to be successful. And that's, yes, in Mexico, Central America, South America, doing business is a little bit more personal. So
Okay.
it takes more relationships. It's
Okay.
about to, have a bond and more create that, interaction
Right.
that actually create the trust and build the trust. I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in the state, but
Right.
those dimensions change, and in the buckets of trust get and more in demand on the down south of the Rio Grande.
Okay, now it's really interesting to know and look at that, because Andy and I and Juan, who runs stuff here at Now Media TV, we've been talking about there's a lot of companies or a lot of individuals that would like to come to the U.S. They have the money to start businesses, and Andy, partner is a business broker, so he's got businesses that are for sale, and it's been very interesting that we're trying to put together a system to the people that want it, that qualify, that go follow the steps, come in, buy a business, and we start coaching them on how to run the business, here in the U.S. and the differences. And I agree with you. I think it's very regional in the U.S. You can't run a business in New York the same way you do in Texas. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No, not at all. I remember one of my early sales mentors, and I got to meet him a couple times. One of the guys I met, just reading his books, was Jeffrey Gitomer. He's a big sales guy, and he was telling me the story one day how he cut his teeth in New York selling textiles, and it's very cutthroat. It is relational building. It's and then he moved to North Carolina. He goes, here I go on this fast talking New Yorker, now have to sit down and sip sweet tea with, and build a different type of relationship in North Carolina. It's totally different. So as a CFO, I go in, when I look at businesses, I look at 6 things. Okay, I look at strategy, both long and short term. Look at sales and marketing. Look at the finances. We look at operations. We look at systems and technologies, and we look at people. As the CFO, how do you start seeing, issues occurring in those other 5, as we call them, 6 cylinders? So you're really focusing on the financial cylinder, but how do the other cylinders start affecting that financial cylinder, and how do you see it because of your skill set?
Well, it's the most important thing is to understand the business cycles. Yeah, how generates revenue, how the company is executing their plans, ambition, and mission, and but besides that, then how the controls, and this is more exactly precisely to where you're pointing into the financial world or accounting world. How is the company set up, controlled to reward the one way the execution of the programs, and but also how to keep control of assets, and there's no risk, or minimize the risk that those assets are going to be impacted. So, and that is nowadays is the risk can be not only from the financial side, but could be cybersecurity, or how are they set up in terms of their corporate responsibility. And then sometimes because the world is changing, so CSG, so how to integrate the society and the responsibility how to be part of these changing world, and that's it will make changes in your doing business.
Yeah, I've always told my clients that the numbers in the business tell the story of how the rest of the business is functioning, and we can tell if sales and marketing isn't working. Yeah, we can tell if our people are not happy. 1 minute. All right, man. We're gonna wrap up this segment. So you guys got to go check out Felipe. How do they find you?
Well, it could be through the website. It's www.b2bcfo.com/Felipe-Suarez.
Okay.
And my email is Felipe Suarez, one word, at b2bcfo.com. And by phone, 251-229-0651.
I know. When I tried to call you, I got that number, and I told you, man, I got somebody else answered.
Yeah.
It was funny. It cracked me up. I'm like, wait, Felipe, that's 251. Where is that?
Yeah, that's my legacy from living in 3 years in Alabama. So.
We'll have to come back and talk about the difference of Alabama and Houston. So this is Michael Razor, your business guide. We'll be back in just a minute.
COVID-19 transformed the way we do business. Now more than ever, fast lead generation and customer retention will determine if a business survives or not.